Here we go. Welcome everyone to an incredible event, Jews in Sports. We are hosting Jewish Inspiration, a very unique inspirational event. The boxers fight to unite the African American community and the Jewish community. I want to set the tone for everyone listening that this is not a debate. And the reasoning for why it is not a debate is because we have such incredible people here. I'll introduce soon. Unique perspectives and understandings where we can hear each other and come to a meaningful solution and be able to have wonderful conversation. And the reasoning for why that is important. As a psychologist, we thrive, the understanding we thrive to have enemies. We love it. 21st century, if I asked you what was the worst event in the 21st century, you would say Hitler, World War II, but it wasn't. It was the Spanish flu. The reasoning of why, I mean, before Corona, everyone obviously now knows of the Spanish flu, but no one knew about the Spanish flu. And the reasoning is because there was no enemy. There's no foe that we can use fear tactics and pin people versus each other and such. So we have this wonderful panel. I'll introduce everyone to have a wonderful conversation. I'm gonna leave it to you guys to go wherever you want with it and discuss. However, I do want to, after I introduce you, discuss about what hate is to you, to define it, how fight it, whatever you like. We want to say that obviously anti-Semitism is on the rise, and we will discuss the African American community and the Jewish community and how we can unite everyone. However, let's introduce everyone. Steve Cunningham. We'll go with big deal. He is. We got to say this guy is incredible. You are an American professional boxer. You held the IBF Cruiserweight title, not once, twice. Twice. Yep. That's how you know it's not luck, when you do it twice.
Right.
You served our country, U.S. Navy, served on air carriers, USS America and USS Enterprise. We say you were not, I bring up Tyson Fury fight because of that says who you are. You fought Tyson Fury. You knocked him to the ground. You did get knocked out in that match, but in that fight, however, Steve Fury went on, Joe Rogan to say that you were his toughest fight. So obviously, big deal. Moving on to Rabbi Yuri Foreman, ordained rabbi, Orthodox Jew. You held the WBA Super Welterweight Championship from 2009 to 2010, and Israel's first WBA championship. Boyd Melson and I are very good friends, and he is a wonderful human being. However, he had a wonderful career as well. American light middleweight boxer. He won the 48th World Military Boxing Championship, alternate for the 2008 U.S. Olympic boxing team, graduated from West Point. You're about to run for Congress, and then you.
Oh, I was about.
You were about to, and then you got the call to go fight overseas versus ISIS, and you took that to serve your country. Jill Diamond is the president of the WBC Cares. You are the first woman to sit on the executive board of the North American Boxing Federation. Amazing. And then Rudy Rochman, who is an activist, a Jewish activist, who is very known for his videos and for the Israel-Palestinian conflict. We're not getting into that topic, but Rudy is very inspirational in a sense that he, in a very intense climate, he can have a discussion with somebody. You don't see him screaming, getting upset. He wants to get to the conclusion, hear people, and learn. So whoever wants to take the floor with hate, I will say a Holocaust survivor, I asked her, what is hate? And she just kind of said it like this: hate leads to evil, evil leads to destruction. So we want to know what hate is, how to fight it. Whoever wants to go first, go for it. This is all you guys.
Boy.
I'd say hate is an insecurity mixed with a lack of resources. Breed hate.
Beautifully said.
Yeah. Thank you.
Right. Hate.
Anybody else? Steve, come on, baby.
Yeah, hate is a concept, right? Hate is his you know, an expression, but it comes from lack of resources.
Yeah. I can't sum it up the way that Boyd did, but I would say that hate is I'm sorry, is Steve talking?
No, you froze. You froze.
Well, you got it.
You froze, but we'll go to Yuri. Hopefully you'll come back. Or Steve. Go, Steve. Hate.
All right, can you guys hear me clear?
Yeah.
All right. I'd say hate is ignorance. You know, ignorance coupled with bad environment, bad situations, and bad education. You know, that's how I categorize hate.
I just want to follow up though, and Steve, someone who's educated can still have hate though, right?
Indeed, but they can also be ignorant to who or what they're hating. You understand what I mean? Like example. Example with so-called African Americans with white America. Once you have a lot of people yelling at so-called black people, and these people, they don't grow up around black people. They don't understand our culture. They don't understand our way of life, and they see it. It's different. They're ignorant to it, and it's, you know, what comes out of that is a lot of hate towards us for, you know, just the way we are, you know.
I know what you mean.
Not having an understanding yet.
I think you mean uneducated, like not informed of their cultures. You can be the smartest man alive and read all the books you want. You live in a hole.
Right. Exactly. There's no without living and growing up around a people, you can't fully understand them. You know, so there is a lot of anger, or I'm sorry, not anger, hate, because we don't grow up around each other, us white and black in America. Now, the white people that do grow up around black people in America, it's a great relationship. You know what I'm saying? It's a great understanding. So that's why I say, you know, ignorance is the main. I believe ignorance is the main ingredient in hate.
Beautifully said. Rudy, do you want to give your thoughts?
Sure. I think in the context of this conversation, we're most so looking at hatred on a collective level. So more so when it comes to xenophobia, and it's based on a fear or rejection of another group of people. And there are different ways of expressing different forms of xenophobia. So one can be racist and have horrible opinions and being against every single black individual and believe they should no longer exist. One can be racist and having horrible opinions and thinking there should be segregation. One can be racist and believing that there shouldn't be segregation, but that somehow black people are inferior. So the point is that there are many levels of which one can be racist. And there are many levels in which one can be anti-Semitic, homophobic, anti-women. There are many levels and different forms of xenophobias. And I think each one of them express themselves differently.
Okay, interesting, very, very interesting, you know, pinpoint. Yuri, go for it.
Just to add, probably, you guys already covered pretty much everything. You know, anti-Semitism or racism is not really, surprisingly, there is racism or hate against black people. For example, in the parts of country where there's almost no black people living, you know? So, and same thing with Jews, you know, there's anti-Semitic moods in areas when there is no Jews living, you know? So it's not really so much a contact, but the way people been growing up or been thought since the beginning, you know? And that's something, sometimes it's a little bit discouraging because you're kind of hoping that it's going to end, the anti-Semitic movements or racist, anything that goes against black people. And it's discouraging because some parts of this country, for example, there's there's some, some little towns or predominantly white towns, and they would have a very racist kind of a moods over there, and anti-Semitic as well. We kind of, Jews and blacks, we kind of stuck together, so we might as well just embrace, each other, because
you speak to a good point, Yuri, right? And Steve and such, right? Education is the experience concept, yeah. Right? Here's
narrow-mindedness, it just
true.
And I want to add to you in the sense that I just a thought hit me kind of in it. Racism and anti-Semitism, all these things, and hate is never going away. And I say that because it's an expression of pain, right? It's kind of, we all express, we all project and such. So we all are going to hate eventually. That's what hate does. It's the expression of what you are experiencing, what your experience is. So if we can have more people share and experience and be together, that is a form of education. And Jill.
No. I'm in Mexico, just trying to keep my connection going. I've now moved spots 3 times. Given everything that everyone said, in the background you're hearing a parrot. Sometimes hate is passed down, but basically to me hate is one is the lack of familiarity, as Steve said, but also it's people who are impotent looking to take power. So they will find power by pushing other people down. And I don't think it's relevant as to who they hate. It's just a way of not feeling impotent.
Beautifully said. Wow.
That was the parrot.
The parrot.
I don't know. I'm not lying about this. I think you could see her right there.
So then Jill, with that concept, right, that it's a vie for power, right? How do we, I don't want to say fight it, again, it's such a great topic to have it because you guys are fighters and you all are wonderful people and care about, humans and such like that. People vie, I guess if hate's an expression of power, how do you take back the power?
Education. Education is key also in taking back the power.
Education and also
hey, we're on the same page.
And be quiet.
Yeah. All right, we'll mute you.
And I think when you.
Oh no.
Mute. I think also that when you look at the basis of people who are against each other, that you also have to follow the money trail, because hate is used as a way to gain power and money and whatever by dividing people. Like I guess what happened in Yugoslavia, in a sense, where people lived in peace, all different nationalities and races for years. And then money came into play, and all of a sudden, religion popped up.
Okay.
True.
It's called conquer, divide and conquer. Usually.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Right.
All ancient Rome tactics. How to infiltrate, and then you divide, and then once you divide, it's easy to conquer.
Well, Joe, while we're on this topic, I know I'm going a little early because you mentioned money and as a big vie for power's expression of hate. I was just interesting because for organizations, just because you have that knowledge, what is because we're seeing it now, right? With NBA, with NFL, with all these organizations money is the goal, right? We can't ignore that. It's the goal of the company. That's what they see. So how does a company, while we're here and everyone can chime in, but how does a company say to attack, to not react and then, you know, to picking and choosing, unfortunately, certain things to stand up for. Right now, racism is a big topic, so they're standing up, fantastic. However, should an organization set the standard that we should be fighting for, you know, to anti-Semitism, homophobia, you know, against, you know, Muslims, you know, what is the tone that companies should set when a lot of, you know, money is involved and power is through that?
I'll answer that first.
Yeah.
I believe
sports is interesting,
NFL,
but
yeah,
I think personally that boxing is one of the most
Jill,
diverse
sorry.
sports.
Jill, the connection's a little tough.
I'm sorry, I'm going in and out.
Steve was answering.
Yeah,
it.
Yeah.
All right. So I feel with the NFL and the NBA being predominantly black, you know, having black athletes, I believe I know that's why racism is the topic that they're tackling, you know, as they are. You know, I'm a little bit surprised that that this wasn't tackled before when Colin Kaepernick was speaking out aloud, but now it's kind of a fad or a trend to do it now as a corporation because of, you know, after the George Floyd, you know, murder. I'm sorry, I won't call it a death. After the George Floyd murder, the whole world started screaming that, you know, about the racial oppression of the so-called black man and woman in America. So now if you're not on board, you look, you know, you can get called out. So now it's, okay, we're going to support this now. But with that being said, I believe the reason why it's this topic is because it's been an ongoing topic here in America, heck, for 400 years for us. And it didn't go away. It just transformed and changed. But lastly, that the athletes and on both sides, NFL and NBA, they're predominantly, you know, so-called black Americans. So, you know, they're gonna touch those topics. Not saying we don't notice anybody else's topic, and as so-called black people, listen, we'll get down with anybody's cause. You know, I mean, that's what we've done. I mean, if you look, we joined the system that hated us. You know, and we helped build it. You know, so we're with getting with somebody else's cause. You know, but we just want to be heard right now. You know.
I think the basis of all corporations is not to offend. They don't want to offend any of their fans. So it really means that the athletes have to take the power back and make the statements they need to, because athletes, freelancers, they struggle so hard. Most of them, not most of them, but many of them come from disadvantaged backgrounds. And when they get there, they also don't want to offend. It takes a really, really passionate cause and some really strong heroes to come out and speak out, and then other people will follow.
Okay, so let's go into now, beautifully said on everyone's part, let's go into now, right, you know, the topic, which is, we'll state it like this, right, the African-American community, and obviously not all, but it seems to have a concept that Jews are oppressing them, and, you know, Jews feel that blacks are attacking them. You know, I don't know how you guys want to open that discussion. We can say that obviously this is a legitimate understanding in many different senses. Eric Ward is an anti-racist activist who, you know, African-American, who spoke out and said, you know, there's, you know, danger of anti-Semitism in Brooklyn because, you know, African-Americans and Jews are living alongside and such, and we've seen videos of attacks and whatnot. However, how can we, you know, that understanding, is it true, whatnot, you know, just to open that
up. I guess I'll take the first shot at this one also.
Go ahead, champ.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. You started. I'm gonna be after you. Come on, man. Two-time okay. Heavy. The respect.
I got you, champ. I still got you, champ. Champ Rabbi. That's what it's gonna be. Hey, no. So I have like this is kind of like a dual. I'll say a dual sword for the so-called black people in America. Is on one end we have
the ignorance I was speaking of. You know, we only thing a lot of us know of the Jewish people is Jews run everything. You know, they run the news, they run the, and when I say they, this is how the people think. They're not looking at it as of, hey, this guy owns that. You know, it's not all the Jewish people don't benefit to an extent of it. You know, it's not them running it, but it's a Jewish guy running the news. It's a Jewish guy who runs, George Soros, who started BLM, or who's funding it, I'm sorry. You know, so they look at the people who's behind the scenes, and that's where you get a little disdain from the so-called Black community. Now, that's an ignorance of them not knowing, hey, this ain't everybody. You know, this isn't all of them. That's just the same as us. There's stereotypes, you know. That's not, yeah, some of them stereotypes are true, but that's not for everybody, you know. Some of these things that are said about us are true, but it's not for everybody. So that's the one side of the sword. We look at that, who's behind everything, and it's, hey, this is a Jewish guy who owns it. So they say, oh, them Jews. And it's like, come on, man. You know, that's not all the Jews, you know, so, or the Jewish people. So the other sword is, you have the ignorance. They don't know, you know, they really don't know the Jewish people, that there is hate towards them for whatsoever reason. You know, America finds a way to just hate anybody for anything. You know, that's just, I think that's more American pie than anything out here. And they don't understand that it's not everybody. You know, it's a double-edged sword to where we don't, again, like I said before, we're not in those communities. There is no no unity amongst us to get to know each other. And I won't put that all on us. I won't put that all on the Jewish community. That's just the way. There's a separation of not understanding. And but then, like I said, it isn't hey, we hate the Jewish people. You know what I mean? Like, these are, I won't say isolated incidents, because there is an anti-Jewish tone that comes from the media, that comes from, it's like it's a driven thing. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's a driven divide. Again, back to that word divide. You know, it's driven, and the ignorant will follow. You know.
I agree with you completely. I just want to add to that, probably being the much oldest person in this group, but something happened in the 70s based on greed and oil and all of that, because prior to them, the Jews and the African Americans were completely unified. And in fact, the Jews were the hugest sponsors for the African American community. So again, I'm going to go back to greed. But that's what started it. That's not why it's happening now. It benefited somebody to split the two communities.
True.
Interesting point. I will like to point out, you are correct in the sense that Ron Mix, NFL Hall of Famer, 1963-ish or whatever, the All-Star game was supposed to be in New Orleans, and he's a Jew, and he said, let's boycott the games. The conditions are not good for the African American community and the players, and so he got all the other players to boycott, and they actually moved it to Houston. So to that point, there, and he was even saying, you know, he went through this list, the Jews were helping and such and this, and so it is an interesting point to hear that there's a benefit to divide, again, that enemy, that foe. Yuri.
So, you know, being a Jewish guy growing up first as a boy in Soviet Union, you know, the Jews never been liked there anyway. There's, by the way, a lot of great jokes about Jews, all Russian jokes, you know. You have to learn Russian really to understand it, but you know what? The thing is, when I was pick up boxing again in Israel, and I was going predominantly to Arab gyms, you know, because it's fascinating about boxing, and maybe boxers, you can really back me up on here, is it's a really sport of second-class citizens. It's a sport of really people who is not doing economically very well. And you know, Arabs, for example, they hate Jews, and the Jews vice versa. You know, and it's fascinating because I remember the first time when I came to the gym in the Arab village, and they put me into sparring one kid, and the kid was, you know, trying to kill me. I tried to, you know, defend myself, but then I actually had the upper hand. And it's funny because in the end, I got their respect, and we were for 3 years or 4 years probably. We're training in the same gym. We had the same goals. We want to get out of this situation, and we want to achieve something good in boxing. Sports in general unites people. You know, it's like fascinating. Like later on, I want to hear Steve's perspective. Like did you, for example, experience anti-Semitism? But like I just started watching Netflix Last Dance with Michael Jordan. You know, it's like. Yeah. I'm blown away every single. I remember I started watching basketball in my teenage years just because MJ was playing. You know, I was like, and it's like it's fascinating because I didn't care. I never even care. My family would never been racist or look at the people a certain way. And I'm just, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm all over the place. I just think really the hate and the racism is really it's an invention. It's not something predominantly human nature. Somebody, whoever is invented it to see the difference. We are the different. Like, for example, when you say something, those people, or they are, like, as soon as there's a difference, even in a sentence, we happen to be like, we are almost like separated. And then when we separated, we are not feeling sorry for like suddenly we're not feeling really people what they feel like, you know. This is called the word conscience or compassion, you know. But I don't know, like I you know, I'm still like that. That's why I'm gonna actually log off a little early because I want to finish my Last Dance Michael Jordan thing. so but Steve, Champ, I want to hear, like, did you like watching NBA, for example, and football? You know, there's predominantly dominated by black athletes, you know, and I would like to know, like, really, is it such a race? Did you experience on yourself, like, being, I don't know, attacked as, I'm not sure. I don't know what kind of idiot have to attack you, but.
in boxing, you mean? Did I experience any racism in boxing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, not blatant racism or, hey, you're a this, you're a that. Nah, because like you said, sports, especially boxing strips you down to just the man. You know, it's mano a mano. It's you against so and so, or it's you putting out and getting back what you put out. So nah, I wouldn't say I have. I mean, everybody, listen, they watch, especially being a champion. You know how it is, champ. They love you just because of what you've done, what you're doing. The way you look, the color in boxing, color doesn't matter. But I have had these combos with people and I've tell them racism is everywhere, but in the boxing gyms amongst people, there, you know, if you find it there, man, that's got to be a dirty person who's the one putting out racism. I mean, very dirty, very evil soul and negative. But it's been beautiful, man. Boxing, sports, like you said, bring us together, and that is one great point in the world of introducing black people to people who don't grow up around them. Or if we had a sport that was predominantly full of Jewish people, you know, that would bring them into the living rooms of black families, sort of like wrestling. You know, that was my introduction to white men to an extent, because, you know, I grew up in the hood, you know, but here it is, we're in the hood on Saturdays and wrestling comes on. We're imitating these white guys with blonde hair, Ric Flair. We're slamming each other on old mattresses, imitating these guys. It wasn't nothing about that's a white wrestler, and you know, it wasn't nothing about it. That's Ric Flair, and that's Lex Luger, and oh, that's me, I'm Lex Luger, you know. So those type of things bring us together, man. We need more of it.
The experience, right? It's an experience. I want to go to Rudy, because we've hit now on a very interesting concept, right? The hate divide expression, right, of wherever you come from or whatever the experience you're having, and then the divide. And
can I just say one thing about that in terms of sports? I think to sum it up, they're just saying when the things that unite us are stronger than the things that divide us, we come together.
Yeah.
So Rudy, give us your wisdom.
Sure. So there's plenty to go over and break down here. First of all, I heard Steve pronounce Jewish. I don't know if you intentionally pronounced it that way, but I do want to touch on something that a lot of people have been saying, that somehow saying Jewish means kind of a Jew. But I wouldn't say that someone that is English is kind of an Ingle, or someone that is Polish is kind of a Pole. And the reason we say Jewish is because ish in Hebrew means man, so we say Jew man. So when we're talking about someone that is Jewish, it's someone that's a Hebrew, an Israelite, a Jew, all different names for the same peoples. In order to have this conversation, I think we really need to break down the specific form of xenophobia against the Jewish people, and that is anti-Semitism. And the basic formula for anti-Semitism is finding the source of suffering and pain and evil that exists within the fabric of a society or community, and blaming those evils and struggles on the Jewish people. It is also about minimizing Jewish experience and pain. So you have a lot of people minimizing what happened during the Holocaust, for example. And it also has to do with delegitimizing Jewish identity, for example, calling Jews white. Whereas today, when we're talking about someone being white, it's not about their color of skin necessarily, because there are albino Africans that are pale, there are Asians that are very light-skinned, and way more light-skinned sometimes than many Caucasians. Today, when someone is saying being white, it's also about their origins, their status, and their culture. And specifically having origins in Europe, specifically having a white status in European and white societies, and specifically having a culture from Europe. When it comes to the Jewish people, first of all, the vast majority of the Jewish people did not even have an experience in Europe. That, let's say those living in Israel, more than half of the Jews are either Sephardic or Mizrahi. But regardless of that, even Ashkenazi Jews who had an experience in Europe were never considered European in Europe. We didn't have equal rights. We weren't allowed to participate in agrarianism. In fact, in our grandparents' generation, at least for me, my grandparents' generation, we were massacred for not being white. 6 million of us were killed for not being part of the white people. So that's another element of trying to delegitimize Jewish identity. But the most popular one is demonizing the Jewish people. And that can be played out in basically blaming elements of pain that other communities have faced and blaming that specifically on the Jewish people. And that's very unique towards the Jewish people. Also the fact that we are the common enemy of all enemies. When you have people that are racist, they're usually very specific groups of people. People that are anti-women, usually very specific groups of people. But those that are anti-Semitic, anti-Jewish, anti-Am Yisrael, anti the nation of Israel, you'll find that in every single community and usually in the extremes of all communities. So to go a little bit further on what you said earlier on, there will always be people that hate. There will always be people that are racist. There will always be people that are anti-Semitic. And that's very true. You'll never be able to rid yourself completely of individuals who hate, but you can shift a culture into getting them to recognize what is hate towards a people and how to fight against it. Let me give a small example of an experience that I had. I went on a trip called March to the Living when I was 17 in 2011, where I traveled to Poland and went to concentration camps and death camps and went to experience it firsthand what happened there. Now, half of my family on my father's side was massacred and completely eliminated during the Shoah. So for me, experiencing that wasn't something shocking. It was shocking and emotional to see it, but knowing what happened wasn't something shocking. However, what I took from that trip that really shocked me was the fact that it didn't happen overnight, where Jews were a part of the society to were being gassed in chambers and burned in ovens. There was an evolution of a decade where anti-Semitism rose. And the way it rose was by putting stereotypes on the Jewish people, boycotting Jewish businesses, breaking the stores of the Jewish people during Kristallnacht, which was done mostly by students, putting the yellow stars, putting us in ghettos, and eventually leading to extermination camps. Now, what was the Jewish community doing in response to that? And as I was doing research on this topic and reading letters that different rabbis and Jewish leaders were writing to each other, what I realized what they were saying was, don't worry about it, it'll just go away. If you do something, it'll just get worse. And it was actually the inability for the Jewish community to unite and fight against and push down anti-Semitism that, in my opinion, allowed anti-Semitism to rise. Because, like you said, there will always be groups of people against Blacks, against women, against Jews, against any form of minority, but it's the responsibility of that minority to create coalitions and to fight against and to allow the society to recognize and to realize what is wrong and how to fight against it.
Rudy,
So
can I also just add to that point, because it's a very powerful point. You're seeing that with the African American community, and the Jewish community is not embolizing it in the strength perspective, psychologically, right? When someone tries to bully you, right, they try to make you feel less than you are, and you succumb to that, right? Then they've won. You have no, you've given them a platform to bully. If you stand up strong, you stand up proud, and you say, I have a right to be here, I have a right, I'm not different than you, then you've taken away their power to bully you. Sorry,
yeah,
I just thought it was
the way to
point.
really take away their power is what Steve and Jill said, is through education.
Right.
Now, if we look at the evolution of racism within the United States, now there still is definitely a ton of racism in the US, especially within the system. But if we look at the pop culture, especially on intellectual platforms and spaces like university campuses, what was acceptable 80, 90 years ago, before you had women's rights, before you had the civil rights, of someone being openly racist or openly anti-women, is no longer the norm today. If someone came on a college campus in a classroom and said something racist, most people of color today are conditioned and prepared to deal with that and to respond to that, to recognize it and to fight against it. And most other students are conditioned and prepared to recognize that as something bad and to fight against it as well. However, if someone says something against the Jewish people, most Jews are not prepared for those conversations, are not ready to handle that, are not ready to recognize that, and no one else is either. So if we want to be able to change things, it's something that will be gradual, it's something that will be generational, it's something that takes time, but we need to empower ourselves, educate ourselves, and give the tools to the younger generation to be able to shift that pop culture. Now, when it comes to the issues with the Jewish people and Black people, I think there are many things that divide us, unfortunately, today. And I think one of the most common things that we hear today in pop culture or in sports is this Black Israelite ideology that is sort of, there's elements of truth in it, and there are also elements that have been taken for certain communities that use that against the Jewish people. So I definitely want to just address that real quick, and then we can maybe have a conversation on that.
Yeah.
First of all,
let's let Yuri, to be respectful. To thank Yuri for being
here. All right, guys, listen. Rudy, I'll see you in Israel. Boyd, I will see you in some falafel place. And you champ right there. I'm gonna gain a little couple pounds, all right? maybe around, all right?
I don't want any more hard fights, man.
Jill, great to see you. Thank you very much, guys. Much blessings.
Ramoni Gardens, Yuri.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
You ready? Okay, so let's now go into. Boy, you have any on words, and we'll get there. But let's go into now, obviously, that topic. Oh, Steve's going.
Sure.
Oh no, I'm good.
Okay. I was saying, Steve, the one topic we need to discuss. I want to put a disclaimer before we go into the topic again, to come out with a solution. And this is one of the main reasons, because I think it's created a huge divide, whether it's right or wrong, whatever it is, it's being used. I believe, and maybe I'm wrong, as a trope, right? The Israelite conversation. Again, you read the comments of the Deshaun Jackson comments. It's everyone saying, no, believe, and believe. That's the truth. That's the truth. And I just think it's manufactured in a way, whether it's being used that way or taken to be used that way as a source to. Now you're calling Jews not Jews. Now you're saying you're categorizing and whatnot. So I just wanted to say that I believe at least that it's being used as a trope, and that will continue to grow amongst both communities, the opposite effect of what we want to do, which is let's come together, have the experiences and conversations. Rudy, sorry, continue.
Sure. So first of all, I'd like to start and kind of agree with what Yuri said earlier. I don't believe that racism doesn't exist, but I do believe that race in itself is a social construct. We've decided to divide ourselves based on physical features that we have, and that in itself I find pretty evil. So I sort of reject this concept of race, that we should divide ourselves by what we look like. You know, my father is a lot more light-skinned, my mother is a lot more dark-skinned. I have two brothers that are a lot lighter than me and one brother that is darker than me. And so when it comes to genetic features, it's not what I think we should divide ourselves with. Also, when it comes to truth, truth is very subjective, and there's also a more holistic level of truth. So you can combine two people's truth, and that being the more ultimate level of truth than one only individual's truth. So when it comes to the story or the issue or the concept of what's going on right now with the Black Israelite movement, with the conversation around that, we have to first understand that there are many and many Black Jews. And I'm not talking about Jews that converted to Judaism that are of color. I'm talking about Jews that descend from Am Yisrael, from the nation of Israel. There are those that were living in Ethiopia. There are those that are Igbos living in Nigeria. There are those in Uganda that have converted. There are those in Ghana and Congo and Madagascar and Kenya, the Lemba tribe in Zimbabwe that are also located in South Africa. There are many Israelites, Jews, Hebrews that have been scattered throughout the world. And there is a truth and an element to this newly or now becoming popular Black Israelite movement, that 20% of the transatlantic slaves came from Igbos. And the Igbos are Hebrews, or now most of them are Christian, but they descend from the nation of Israel. So there is an element of truth that the ancestry of a lot of people of color within the United States and other places in which the transatlantic slaves went to have ancestry that is Jewish. But the reason that things are being manipulated and using one versus the other has to come from a lot of trauma that exists. Comes also from the fact that there's a lack of identity for a lot of people of color within the United States. A lot of people of color do not define themselves as African American, because that's just taking a continent and a country and putting it together. And they don't feel like they're a part, a lot of them, as a fabric of the society of the US, and they're looking for that identity. And unfortunately, that identity has been stripped from them. Because even, let's say, if they were from Africa, where? What tribe? What language? What time? What family? And that's an element that a lot of people need to understand that is traumatic towards the experience of people of color in America, that their identity was ripped from them. So a lot of people are looking for that identity. And unfortunately, people are coming in and trying to manipulate that trauma and that suffering and that lack of identity by pinning groups against one another. Now, if the conversation of Black Israelites, which I have many Black Israelite friends, there are communities here that live in Israel, and there are many strands of being a Black Israelite. There's not one homogeneous way of thinking, so each one individual can have their own opinions. But the way it's often being used to pin one against each other also has to do with an element of not understanding who the Jewish people are. And a lot of people of color, in fact, a lot of people around the world, do not understand who Jews are. They think it's just this religion, whereas a religion is defined as a belief system in a God, deity, book, or prophet. So Jews can't be a religion, because even if we reject the Torah and Hashem, we're still Jews. And even if one were to accept the Torah and Hashem, they wouldn't become a Jew. They'd have to go through years of a process of joining a nation, adopting an identity, a history, a culture, a connection to a land, and so on. So Judaism isn't a religion. It's more so a portable suitcase of an identity that was displaced forcefully from Judea/Israel, and that was used and maintained to preserve that identity and pass it down throughout each generation. And because a lot of people don't understand what it means to be a Jew, it's very easy to manipulate that and to minimize their suffering, to put their identity aside, to find a few individual Jews that have become successful, and there are, but that does not represent the majority, that does not represent the whole, to use those people in power as sort of, this is the power that is oppressing you, and these are the Jewish people, manipulating people to those conclusions, and even using biblical texts out of context and manipulating that to get one group against the other. And towards sort of what Yuri said, dividing and conquer is a strategy that exists within white supremacy and within white systems to keep people down. It's the same thing that's happening right now with Israelis and Palestinians. This is what the British crafted for Israelis to see Palestinians as their enemies and for Palestinians to see Israelis as their enemies. It's exactly what the British did in India with Pakistanis and Indians. It's what the British have been doing, or people that are coming in a position of power from white countries and trying to divide and manipulate different populations. So in order to understand this Black Israelite ideology, yes, there is an element of truth that a lot of people of color have heritage in. As you want to say something?
Yeah, no, I want to say, right, there, whether it's truth or not, right, we can debate that all day long.
Sure.
But I see a similarity. You said the African American community, right, loses the identity. Whether that's true or not, it's, you know, it's your understanding fantastic in that way. However, if that is true, right, it's kind of not coincidental that a very hard argument now of against the Jews is one that says you're not a Jew, and I'm going to as the you know Orthodoxy, you know, Jews are probably right now saying, well, no, we're the Jews, no, we're the Jews, and the African Americans and the Black, they're not the Jews, and all of a sudden there's that divide where before the argument of Black Israelites, right, we didn't care. Like, whatever, you do you do us. It wasn't a big thing. But now in the Jewish community, it's like, it's war. And so that's what I think it's being used as we're saying, we're constructing these things. So my question to, you know, Boyd and Steve, you know, if Jill comes back on, but Boyd and Steve, you know, what's that temperature in the sense of the black Israelite argument? I think a lot of African Americans now believe it. Read the comments. No, we're the Jews. No, the Jews are the white people suppressing us. No, no, no. Is that true? First off, then how do you combat it? What's the temperature? Because it is a very striking that are making a lot of Jews very uncomfortable. If that's a true statement.
Go ahead, Boyd, and then I'll go after you, Boyd.
No, Steve, brother, I want to hear what you have to say.
Okay. So, I mean, the environment with the what's being called the Black Hebrew Israelite movement is, yeah, it's a hostile one on a few fronts. There are different sects. There are different groups. You have the groups, and I understand the groups that you guys are speaking of are the guys out on the corner. They're cussing out anybody. They're cussing out everybody. Black, they don't care. If you don't want to listen to them, they're cussing you out. They're cussing out Jewish people. They're cussing out white people. They're cussing out anybody, even other Israelites, even other Black people who believe that we are Israelites. They're cussing them out if they're not living the way they say. There are doctrines out there. Yes, it's a hostile environment. Why? Because of the information that we have been getting, the information that they have is that they are angry at the Jewish man. And I say Jewish to draw a distinction between who is who. That's why I say so-called black man, because I don't believe I'm black. I'm not black. I'm brown. I don't want to go by distinctions that this country has given me. My people don't want to go by them either. The ones who are waking up according to Scripture, what we are believing is Scripture is saying about us coming to know who we are as and our ancestral descendancy. So we don't want to use black, or we don't want to use African American. We believe our ancestors are from Israel. There is historical evidence, as Rudy has said, throughout in Africa. There is a migration from Israel into Africa, South Africa, West Africa, the Igbo tribe, the Limba tribe, the Felucia, the one he did not mention, the Yoruba tribe. I mean, I've just had this discussion with a female on my post last week about the Yoruba tribe, who she found her DNA comes from. And I told her, hey, you're more than likely, you're an Israelite. You're from that descendancy. You're from the Yoruba tribe. So there is tons of evidence that the slave trade brought over many Israelite descendants through the language that the slaves spoke when they got here. They wrote and spoke in cursive Hebrew. They spoke in Hebrew and they wrote in cursive Hebrew. The first slaves that were brought here, the songs that they sung, the words that they used. There's the word that our ancestors used to call the slave master massa. That you guys know what that means. You know that means oppressor and you know
Steve, with that in a sense that, right, the evidence, right, that there's descendancy, right. However, right, then it's used whether you agree, whoever agrees, whoever's saying it, but it's now a common consensus that the genealogy came and is only African American people, and that all the white Jews, right? That's where it becomes dangerous in a sense that now kind of basing off of color. When I don't want to say it's hypocritical, but
no, you're 100% correct right there. Me personally and my family, I mean, we 3 days a week we study. We're learning Ibrit. We're learning the language. We're learning the Torah. We are my sons read Hebrew now. So I'm reading. We're learning. We are growing. There is a like I want to say sect or groups of people. There is a teaching. That's what I'll say. That fits it better. There is a teaching that it's only black people. And come on, man. If you're reading the word, if you're reading the scriptures, it says scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. So for me to tell you or anyone from your descendant, a Jewish man or woman, hey, you're not an Israelite. You're not descended from an Israelite. I'd be wrong, because the Bible says and scattered into every nation. Israelites look like everybody. Israelites have blue eyes, blonde hair. Israelites have brown eyes, dark skin. So we don't categorize people. It'd be asinine for me to say, hey, only black people are the Israelites. The white Jews, they're wrong, they're lying. That's ridiculous, because the word doesn't say that.
But people say that. It's a manipulation.
They do. You're right. You're right. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I think that's where it turns into a manipulation.
You're right.
In a sense that, yes, education. If we went and educated everyone, fantastic. But the African American community, as you had stated before, does believe this. And this version, in a sense that it's a manipulated construct that now is set in the psyche that we're not going to be able to informationally break down.
True.
And it's so dangerous. And I'm just curious from your perspective and everyone's, and boy, you can also speak with you, but how to combat that, how to break it down, how to say that, because it's being used as to now attack.
Well, let me interject right here with this. It's not even the Israelite movement in the so-called black community. It's not large. It's not big. The percentage is very small. You have the percentage. You know what I'm saying? You have the percentage of so-called black people who don't even believe in a God because of what Christianity has done to them. So they don't even mess with the Bible at all. Then you have the percentage that is Christian. You're not telling them nothing. They don't want to hear nothing but Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. That's it. If you ain't talking Jesus, they don't want to hear it. So, but then you have this percentage that is, hey, I believe this. I believe my ancestors were that. But then you also have this percentage. It's another percentage that, or out of that group, the doctrine that's teaching, the Jews, they're Jewish. There's something sort of like, as Rudy said, they're sort of like. That's what that means, which they are wrong. If you know Hebrew, you know what ish means, like he said. But there goes that ignorance. That's that ignorance. They don't know. Even in this supposed awoke stage, they're ignorant to this. And they're also ignorant to what Torah says, man. We're not supposed to show hate or anything to anyone. So, hey, man, it's a smart group. Oh, and lastly, one thing I wanted to say about the concerns. This Israelite group, what you call the black Israelite group, these guys aren't getting guns. These guys will not run up and punch and beat people up. I know these guys are sticking to the word best they can in their capacity and the mindset of their capacity of it. And it is non-violent. Really, in all actuality, it seems to be a problem on every aspect from anybody, white, Jews, this, that. When black people get together, it's like, oh, what are they going to do? What the hell's going on? What? They're mad. We haven't fought back yet. We ain't. Come on, man. So we're not a people of jumping up, get guns, and we're going to stop our oppressors. We know we lose that battle. We lose that battle. We've lost. Look, we've joined the system that hates us. We fought to join that system, in ignorance. So there should be no there should be no alert of any danger from a group, but from us as a group. But there are sects. I mean, I did see, was it last year in New Jersey? You had a few supposed Israelites, black Israelites, that attacked the store, and I think people died. Jews died there, and it's like, hey, you know what I mean? You always have you have your separate sprinkled, speckled fools out there. You know what I mean?
I think it's a tad different. I'm going to let Boyd and Rudy speak, but I think this is a tad different, Steve, because I'm not saying Israelites. Actually, take away
just black people compete.
Well, because Boyd was saying, like, it's small, right? You and Amari Stoudemire, right? So, but what has the danger of what has happened? What you're talking about, we need divide, we need such. What has happened is that your message, right, or whatever, of the Israelite Union has now been turned into a weapon that is being used versus the Jewish people to make them fearful and scared. Unfortunately, we're reacting that way instead of standing up strong. But it is felt in the Jewish community, and it is being geared toward blacks. And there's in African American, there's a reason for that. I'll throw it to Boyd.
Hey, so in keeping with tonight's theme, Boyd doesn't get to talk. But fret not. Next week, September 13th, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, aish.tv, we will get to hear Boyd's wisdom of this whole question, this whole thought. We go into greater detail on the Israelite argument, or at least the argument that's been taken by the African American community as, as a weapon, as I just said. And we come to conclusions. We have real understanding. We don't just like to spew fear or whatnot. We come to a conversational understanding and ideology of what we need to do better on both community fronts. Please email us at info@jifoundation.org. Questions, thoughts, comments, visit jifoundation.org. Subscribe there, aish.tv. And in the Facebook page description of this video, Jewish Inspiration Foundation, please see all the content, the information, all the things that we're doing to try to make an impact on the world, and aish.tv to bring you all this wonderful content that they are giving the world. And visit me at The Jewish Athlete on Instagram. But more importantly, as I always like to say, inspire someone today and put a smile on your face. Have an awesome day, guys. Thanks so much. See ya.